Welcome to the Hospitality Room presented by Mascot Media. Bobby Swofford, Blair Cartwright with you, and hope you, wherever you are enjoying this podcast, you are warm. Mr. Swofford, are you warm today?
I was a lot warmer this morning when I woke up than I am right now. I will
Yes.
say that. I left the house, and it was like 54 degrees on the car, and I went out for lunch about an hour ago, and it was 37. I'm not a big fan of that, and it's going to get
No.
nothing but worse over the weekend.
Yes, it is crazy. Did you get snow this morning in Central Arkansas?
No, actually got hail from about 11:15 to 11:30, and hopefully the house I just bought 3 months ago doesn't need a new roof.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well,
Because it was probably between quarter size and golf ball. It was large enough that it was quite loud.
I can imagine the insurance folks in Central Arkansas are going to be busy, and the roofers are going to be very active once the cold
Yes.
weather. We got about an inch. It's chilly. It's windy. It's not a lot of fun, but there is a lot to talk about today. So let's get right to our headlines. And I guess I forgot to put the headline music in there. Michigan, our national champion. Not really too surprising, was it? I mean, was the game as good as everybody's making it out to be?
It wasn't, and a lot of it was self-inflicted by Washington because they didn't make any adjustments. If you watched the Alabama-Michigan game and you hadn't seen a game all season long, and that's the one that you watched, you understood, okay, Michigan's front seven's pretty good.
Mm.
We're going to need to give our quarterback time to throw the football. And time after time in that contest, Washington refused to keep a tight end in. They refused to keep an extra running back in to block. They routinely sent 5 receivers out into the pattern, and Michael Penix was running for his life and having to throw off, 1.5 to 2 seconds protection. And their offense really never got anything going. They're really a vertical passing game, and they had to rely on a lot of screens, a lot of short stuff, and never gave their offense much of a chance.
Yeah, it didn't seem like they didn't get to play the game that they like to play. Penix got beat up, but I never felt like Washington was really I didn't feel like Michigan ever got threatened by Washington. Even though it was a
No,
one-score game, I just didn't feel like, oh, here comes Washington,
Yeah, that Washington took the punch. They took the first couple punches. Obviously the 2 big runs by Donovan Edwards. They're down 17-3. Even though when it's 17-10, and they had 2, if not 3 possessions down a touchdown where they could have gone down the field and tied the game, and they never did anything. One of them was an interception. One of them was a 3-and-out. It's never. You're exactly right. It's not like they ever had the ball at midfield or threatening with a chance to tie the game. Michigan's defense did enough to kind of keep them at bay. And then obviously the whole bend but no break didn't work for Washington because obviously the turnover led to the long return that put the game away late.
Yeah, it was a dominating performance by Michigan, and most likely, hard to tell, but that was probably their best and most complete game of the year. I mean, special teams.
No, it looked like
were
it for
not an
sure.
issue.
I mean, yeah, it's we're always going to be asking what if. I mean, what if they would have played Georgia? Because I think most people think that Georgia's the number 2 team in the country, even though they didn't make the playoff. I think that would have been a very entertaining game to watch. It's not what we got. Obviously, we'll have a chance to see that next year with the 12-team playoff. As great as the semifinals were, the national championship game left a little bit to be desired, but that was to be expected. Anytime you see like great playoffs, you never see a great championship. You see that in the high school and in the pros a lot. Make great AFC or NFC championship games, and the Super Bowl's a dud. Maybe it's the blowout in the regular season or in the early rounds of the playoff, and the Super Bowl's a great one. It's very hard to get just great game after great game throughout a postseason.
Yes, and so Michigan wins. Harbaugh's the man of the hour, which leads us to our everything's connected this week. Our next headline, Black Monday. So now Jim Harbaugh's name, of course, was hot before the championship, so now it's even hotter after the championship. And then since then we've seen Belichick retire, and then Jared Mayo announced today to take over for him. That was quick. Most of the usual suspects we thought would get canned. Mike Vrabel was a shocker, and Pete Carroll out in Seattle was a stunner, I thought. But it wasn't the bloody Black Monday we thought it would be.
Yeah, I mean, it's still 8. I mean, you're still talking 25% of the league is looking for a head coach. And the 2 that you mentioned right there were the most surprising. Pete Carroll is getting up there in age. He said he's going to go be a consultant, I guess, for the Seahawks, but it wasn't really his choice to give up the sideline. But the Titans firing Mike Vrabel was really surprising. I saw the stat. They're 1-9 in their last 10 division games, and those are the ones that are really important, and those games really matter. But somebody's about to get a really good coach, and I was actually, deep down, secretly hoping that's who the Patriots were going to make a run for, until you find out that they already had a coach in waiting contract on Gerard Mayo that they signed last year. And the more details are coming out about it, and I'm sure we'll find out in the coming week or so. But essentially, what was supposed to happen was Belichick was supposed to coach this year and next year, and he was going to hand over the keys to the Cadillac next year anyway. And it's just them going 4-13 sped up the process a little bit. It's when you look at the rest of the league, though, there's nothing that was surprising. I mean, the Chargers had to make a move. Are they done, though, is the question. Because there are some playoff teams, if they go one and done, do they make a move thinking, hey, I can go out and get Mike Vrabel, or I can go out and get Bill Belichick, and all of a sudden we're a Super Bowl contender next year? I don't know that the 14 teams that are in the playoffs are all going to have the same 14 head coaches next year, just because of what's out there and what's available.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of discussion I've been listening to on the radio, is that, now that this is probably the most, I mean, you've got the best coach in the history of the league is available.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, he's older and it's not been working out well, but maybe a change of scenery is what he needs. Philadelphia supposedly is going to fire Sirianni if they lose to Tampa Bay. Belichick would be a great fit there. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's weird. Normally it plays out and it's all obvious, but now we've had a few kinks thrown into the mix. Who knows what's going to happen?
It's all going to depend on that very first domino, and we've seen it a bunch. And the Patriots obviously aren't it, because they're promoting from somebody within. They're not hiring outside. Whether it's the Chargers, whether it's the Raiders, whether it's one of these other teams creating a new opening. Because if the Chargers go out and hire Mike Vrabel or Bill Belichick tomorrow, that's going to start the ripple effect, and that's when people are going to start making their decisions. Or does everybody wait and see, or do these head coaches wait and see? Because you just mentioned, if the Eagles happen to lose to Tampa Bay this weekend and they drop their final 6 games of the season or whatever it is, and they make a move, anybody would be chomping at the bit to take that job. Vrabel, Belichick, and everybody else in the world. So maybe just because of that, the timeline is slowed down a little bit. Of course, everybody's got to check the Rooney Rule box. You got to go through the proper protocols as far as interviews, and that process is determined. But I don't know. It still may be another week to 10 days before these things really start to play out, because there's no advantage like it is in college football of hiring a coach early. Like, we got to go out and recruit. You can't do anything for the next month and a half anyway, as far as these NFL coaches when it comes to the college players or free agency. So you might as well just sit back and kind of take your time and make sure you're making the correct decision for your franchise.
True, and the league does it that way because they don't want you to upstage the playoffs either.
That's also true. Yeah,
that's
a good point.
So, and we'll get to those in a minute. So our next headline, speaking with the coaching deal, Saban retires.
Yeah.
And we knew, we thought maybe it was coming, but I didn't expect it this quickly, this soon. Did you?
Yeah. I guarantee if you would have asked him right after the SEC championship game, he's like, let me go right now. Because, I mean, that was probably one of the biggest wins of his career. A team that was outmatched and nowhere near the talent level that Georgia had, and they find a way to win that game. And, we kind of saw who they were in that bowl game against Michigan. They're very one-dimensional, don't have a quarterback. Obviously, you think he's going to be your quarterback next year, but you got to go out and overhaul it. And the one thing that you keep hearing over and over in all the stories or articles you read or hear about Nick Saban is the NIL drove him out. I mean, the fun of coaching is no longer there anymore for coaches. We saw the NIL sanctions that Florida State had yesterday, and that's probably just going to be the first of dozens, if not hundreds, of NIL violations that we're going to see in the next year or two. As a coach who's as decorated and as celebrated as he is, I mean, why do it? He doesn't need the money. He doesn't need the accolades. He's running out of fingers to put championship rings on. So just walk away when you can. And I don't blame him, of course. And, you're reading right now that DeBoer is about to be the head coach from Washington, about to go to Alabama. So you think that they're about to keep it rolling, but you just never know. I mean, because you really got to feel like the transfer portal is about to light up with all these Alabama players.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Washington, and obviously those that don't know, DeBoer at Washington was landing at first was who everybody wanted. But then it's like, if you're landing, why? Why would you leave?
Yeah.
I mean, Alabama's a great job, yes, but with the 12-team playoff, I don't have to be at Alabama to play for a championship per se.
Mm-hmm.
Now, maybe you have to win it, but to get to the playoff with the expansion, I don't know that we're going to see coaches move as much as we did in the past.
No, that's a good point. And also, I mean, you're talking about he's in the Big Ten now. You got to
Yeah.
remember, Oregon's changing conferences, and so now he's in the same league with Ohio State and Michigan and USC and Penn State. He's in a power conference. It's not like he's stuck in the Pac-12 with USC and nobody else. And so, and he's a very prominent league, and he's going to be obviously a new member, the bright new shiny toy that they've got. Everybody wants to play with, and so, yeah, I don't blame him for leaving. DeBoer was going to be in that same situation too, though, if he wouldn't have left. Obviously Washington joining as well, but Alabama's hard to say no to, especially because he's not as nearly as Lanning has established himself, and he's also coached in the SEC too. DeBoer's, his path's a little different. Maybe he's just going to make his own way, and of course, you never want to be the guy that replaces a legend unless you're getting $7 or $8 million a year to do it, and that'd be hard to say no to.
Well, DeBoer has the experience that Lanning doesn't have. And you've also got, I think it's going to be easier to recruit at Alabama than Washington per se. But, yeah, it's just, wow. I mean, just a stunner. And Washington's open now. There weren't a lot of surprises in college. So I don't know if we'll have the dominoes. But we'll see. I mean, it's just kind of wild to think Nick Saban's not going to be on the Alabama sideline, and Arkansas was never able to beat him on the field in 17 years.
0-17. Yeah, 0-17. And Alabama's finally not on the schedule, and Nick Saban's not on the roster.
I know. It's just going to be so weird. It's going to be interesting to see, does he end up at ESPN in a game day role? Maybe he takes over for Corso, or maybe, it would make too much sense. College football obviously needs somebody in charge. He would be good, but that makes too much sense. So, of course, that will never happen. But it's just, man, it's just wild. I don't think anyone expected all these names to come out. So with Saban retired, supposedly, let me throw this out at you. He and Belichick are good friends. Who's to say that Belichick doesn't take, say, the Eagles' job, and those two maybe want to coach together? Would you put it out of the realm of possibility that Saban and Belichick coach together somewhere next year?
Yeah, I would put it out. I'll lock it up.
Okay.
We're shutting it down at the office today, apparently. So,
Ah.
I would say I would be unlikely just because Saban hasn't coached in the NFL in 17 years, 18 years. And things change, and obviously college football and the NFL are not completely different, but they're not the same either. I just think maybe Nick Saban wants to hang out with the wife for a little bit. He hasn't had a life in 50 years, 60 years, and everybody talks about what's he going to do next? Maybe he just wants to sit at home and fish and drive his Corvettes. So maybe he wants to do nothing. I mean, like when I retire, I'm going to want to do nothing. So maybe that's what he wants to do, but I don't see him getting into the NFL game. It's cool to think about it because obviously that clip of him and Belichick with the Browns have been circulating a bunch lately, just because they go out at the same time. I just don't see it happening.
Okay, I'm just curious because the Eagles need help on the defensive side, and if he takes that job, who better to coach your DBs than Nick Saban? So, okay. Well, I just thought I'd throw that out there. All right, shifting gears, our next headline, basketball. Arkansas opens 0-2 in conference play. Worst beatdown ever at Bud Walton Arena by Auburn, and then last night against Georgia, and they came back, which is more than I expected in the second half. But there's just no chemistry on this team, is there?
There's no flow offensively.
Yeah.
They're really reliant on the one-on-one game. There are a lot of isolation. It looks like an NBA game, minus the fact that they're not NBA type players. Tremont Mark was pretty good. I'll give you that. But they need more than one guy on a given night. Minifield's been pretty good at times. He was a no-show against Georgia. Yeah. Trevon Bazile hasn't really done much in the last couple of weeks of the season. He's got some highlight plays. Obviously, the putback dunk was great. But where's the other 39 minutes? And Devo Davis is just wasting space on the floor right now. I just don't know I don't want to say this season's been a miss, like he's missed on the players in the portal. They're just not meshing. They're not Jihan right now. I'm actually calling a game tomorrow. I'm calling a Central Arkansas men's game tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
And so I was doing some research on Bellarmine, who they're playing, and
Uh-huh.
they're like giving up 77 points a game. It's like 304th in the country. They're only 2 spots behind Arkansas. I mean, Arkansas is in the bottom 60 as far as points allowed per game. At some point, you got to play a little defense.
Ugh. Yeah, yeah, because if your offense, well, that's the thing. Defense travels, they say.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you can't score, you got to be able to defend. And if you can't defend and you can't score, ugh, yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
that's
if you're in the same
rough.
conversation of any category with Bellarmine, ain't going well. It's not going good.
Yeah, yeah, not good. So where can we see the game?
ESPN Plus.
All right. I saw you
Yeah.
were doing UALR women the other day too,
Yeah,
right?
so I did a Little Rock Women
Awesome.
last week, and I didn't realize this was going to be something I was going to start doing. They've got some holes to fill, and so they reached out. And so
Awesome.
tomorrow, Saturday, I'm doing the UCA women against Austin P, and then followed by the UCA men taking on Bellarmine.
Awesome. Well, congratulations. That's
Appreciate that. And so
awesome.
my second and third soiree in the ESPN Plus world.
Hey, there you go. All right. Hey, let's get to the picks. Big weekend of NFL football. And it starts with the Browns and the Texans. The Texans getting 2 at home against the Browns. A little surprised by that. Who do you like?
These two teams played each other not that long ago, but C.J. Stroud didn't play, and so we didn't get a really good indicator of what this matchup's going to look like. You just said it, talking about the Razorbacks. Defense travels. Doesn't matter where you play. Elements aren't going to be a factor in this, but the Browns' defense is going to be a factor. Joe Flacco's got enough experience. I think he makes enough plays, and going against that type of defense in a playoff setting is going to be different for Stroud. So I'll take Cleveland on the road.
I'll take the points and I'll take the home team. I'll go with the Texans. Um, I don't know, just a hunch that I have. So we'll see. Our next game. Whoop. What did I do here? There we go. Chiefs, Dolphins in the Freezer Bowl in Arrowhead. The Chiefs are 4.5 favorite. The over is still like 40 something, which is insane.
44 and a half.
That's just way too high.
Yeah.
The Chiefs tend not to cover, but the Dolphins cold. I mean, we're talking 0. We're going, and I'm questioning the sanity of going to the game. But it's my son's birthday.
Yeah.
And that's what he wants to do. So, and they're sending out all sorts of notifications about how to stay warm, what you can take, what you can't take. I don't know. I think the Chiefs. My thought is the Chiefs can win, but I mean, can the Dolphins? The Dolphins I saw are like 0-10 in games in which the temperature is below 40 degrees.
Yeah.
Do they even have a chance in this one?
No. The Dolphins lost this game when they lost to the Bills last week. The Dolphins needed that game drastically because they're not a team that can play on the road. They're not a team that can play in the elements. You just mentioned it. And we're not talking about it's just going to be cold. You're talking right now, according to ESPN's AccuWeather, -2
Ooh.
and wind gusts of 30 to 40 miles an hour, if not more.
Oh.
That's going to wreak havoc on that passing game. The Chiefs are going to struggle with it too, sure, but they're going to be more acclimated to it because they play it in all the time. And they're also getting into practice in it this week. Mahomes has got a much stronger arm. He's going to be able to drive the ball through the wind a little better than you think Tua will. And the injuries to Mostert and Waddle, even though they're both supposed to play this week, those are going to be slowed because of the elements. The speed of Tyreek Hill and Waddle and Mostert and A-Chain are going to be slowed because of the elements in the cold. So I like the Chiefs. I kind of like the Chiefs regardless, even if they're playing this game in a dome. I really think teams have figured out the Dolphins. I don't think the Chiefs are a Super Bowl team, but I do think they're better than Miami.
I'll take the Dolphins. I think the Chiefs will win, but I think they'll probably win by like a field goal because this is going to be like 10-7, I think. So that means the Dolphins would get the points and would cover. So, I mean, cold weather like that, of course, we don't see it too often. But that really negates speed, does it not?
It does. I mean, it's just hard to get loose. You never feel like you can just, really for lack of a better term, take the chains off and really break it loose. Because you're always tight. You're always, the footing is going to be terrible at Arrowhead. Obviously on a grass field that hardens, you never feel like you have good footing anyway.
Yeah.
So it's, you're just never going to be able to really dig your cleats in. You're going to have to wear the longer cleats, which is going to grab more. It's going to slow you down. It really does bode, like you're talking about, to be a real slop fest and a slug fest.
Speaking of slop and slug, our next game, Bills Steelers. They're saying 65-mile-an-hour winds in Buffalo. How do you even play football in that? Honestly,
you don't. You don't well, and maybe this actually may help the Bills a little bit because he misses some throws so much. Josh Allen, maybe the wind will blow it actually back to his receivers. So he's gonna make some really bad decisions. I'm going to take Pittsburgh just because of the elements. I don't think anything is going to be a blowout. I think the Bills are a better team. I know Mason Rudolph has got Pittsburgh playing better, but they're not going to go on the road and win in those elements.
The line's 10. I'll take the Bills and give the points. I have no faith in the Steelers, and I think a couple turnovers maybe result in a little scoop and score action makes the charge. Yeah. I mean, why would you even consider? Well, one, it's the league is apparently not considered moving the game. There was talk of going to a dome, but safety of the fans, 10 them out. But I mean, why would you even consider a pass play if it's 65-mile-an-hour winds?
Well, because ego's getting away. Remember a couple of years ago when they had all the crazy wind and weather in Buffalo, and the Patriots threw 2 passes and they found a way to win that game 14-10.
Yeah,
it's going to take a coach thinking like that. It's supposed to be 22 and raining, it looks like, and you're talking, but they're over under 34.5. I mean, so the odds makers aren't expecting a whole lot out of this game.
No, nor should they. Not at all. All right, our next game, Packers-Cowboys. Love the warmth of AT&T Stadium. The camera crew's glad they're there. Boy, wouldn't you love to be on the camera crew in Buffalo or Kansas City this weekend?
Oh,
nasty.
I'm asking for hazard pay.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Packers-Cowboys. Cowboys 7-point favorites. Packers are playing well. Cowboys tend to blow teams out at home, but it's teams that don't have winning records.
Yeah, this is intriguing. This is probably the second most intriguing game of the weekend to me, behind that Kansas City-Miami game. Green Bay and Jordan Love have played well, but you said that the Cowboys blow people out at home. They've almost been untouchable at AT&T Stadium this year. The secondary's been good. Stephon Gilmore takes that team to a different level in the back end. Bland is a home run or a strikeout type defensive back, and we've heard about all the interception returns for touchdowns this year. But to me, Steph Gilmore is a difference maker in the back end. I'll take the Cowboys, even minus the 7. I think they win this one and win it handily.
I'm with you. I'll take the Cowboys. I wonder, I know it's been a long time, but don't you kind of secretly think Mike McCarthy would just love to stick it to Green Bay?
Yeah.
Just
absolutely.
A little bit.
This is not the first time they've played each other, right? Since he came over?
It hadn't happened often. And then
no, it doesn't, because the Packers have been so bad they haven't made the playoffs.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can Google that real quick.
Yeah. So as we move, at least that game will be on regular television, unlike the Chiefs-Dolphins game, which everybody will want to watch, is on Peacock, which you have to have a subscription to see, which is totally insane, but that's the NFL for you. And final game on Sunday, a little triple header action. Rams at Lions. The Lions -3.
Yeah, the old Matthew Stafford Bowl here. Yeah. This is fun. Matthew Stafford, obviously, began his career there in Detroit. I love what the Lions have done. This is a scary matchup, though, if you're Detroit.
Well, and Goff started with the Rams.
Right. You got to exercise some demons here if you're Detroit. You win your division for the first time in 30 years, and then all of a sudden you got a team that's probably shouldn't be in the playoffs but found a way to get hot late. Stafford's healthy. Guys who can always get open and Kupp and Pakua. I don't know. I would love to see the Lions make the Super Bowl, but I really see them losing this game, unfortunately. I'm going to take the Rams. I want Detroit in the Super Bowl so badly just because they're hard not to root for. It's just they're going to pull the Lions and lose this game.
See, that's what I think. You look quarterbacks, okay, might be a push. The push. Then you get to coaches. Campbell versus McVay. And let's face
Yeah.
it, McVay is one of the best. I mean, what he's done with this team this year is incredible. And you also wonder, too, after Campbell went for 2 after the penalty from the 7, I mean, is he
Yeah.
going to make a crazy decision like again in the playoffs? Because there's no tomorrow. I mean,
Yeah, see, I don't. You may have to refresh me on the rules. Once you go for 2 once, do you have to? You have to stay committed to it?
I don't think
Because
so. But maybe you do.
because
I don't
because
know.
if not, why would you? So hear me. This is really crazy going down the
Yeah.
rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Why not line up, go for 2, and get a false start every time, and now the extra point shorter?
That's true. It's a good point.
So
You may be
you
onto
can kind of
something.
job the rules. I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I thought that too, but I never actually looked. Say, okay, the first time you go for 2, do you have to stay with it? So I
Yeah.
wouldn't think you would have to, but
I wouldn't think, but who knows?
I don't know.
He's crazy. And then our final game, Eagles Buccaneers. Apparently the Sirianni Bowl. He either wins or he's fired. And Tampa Bay getting just 3 at home.
Yeah, this is a game that makes you scratch your head because you could honestly see it going either way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Philadelphia has struggled so badly defensively over the last 6 weeks of the season, 8 weeks of the season. And Tampa Bay can score on you. Now, Mike Evans will go off. And Philadelphia's had a ton of injuries in the secondary, and I'm not sure they can stop anybody. I'm going to take Philadelphia just because I think they're a better team. But this one, if the weather's good in Tampa, when is it the weather not good in Tampa?
Yeah.
Screams 42-38. I'm talking something that's going to light the scoreboard on fire.
Well, compared to everywhere else in the league,
Yeah.
it's going to be gorgeous weather. So, yeah, I'll take the Bucks because I just don't know, as bad as the Eagles have played, if you can just turn it around like that. It just seems like
Yeah.
their problems are way too many. But then again, they get a break in playing Tampa, who's got issues of their own. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It should be.
And they get the extra day off. Jalen Hurts, dislocates his finger. He gets the extra day. The game's not until Monday.
Yeah.
Which I don't like Monday night playoff games. You're putting somebody at a disadvantage for next week. But I understand why they got to do it. I think the Peacock thing bothers me more than playing on Monday night.
Yeah.
But I don't like either one of them.
Well, I mean, I get the Monday night from the ratings aspect because the ratings the playoff ratings this year are probably going to be all-time high. And
Yeah.
the NFL's mentioned the Peacock thing. Well, everybody wants to see the cold weather game, and now they can on Peacock. So it'll be interesting to see, had it been on, at some point if NBC doesn't decide to say, okay, we're going to make it available. But, yeah, I mean, the playoff number, the regular season numbers were insane. We're talking 25 million plus. For the playoffs, it's going to be unbelievable, don't you think? I mean, we're football nuts.
It has to be. The highest rating since 2015 for the league year round for the season. And because we're crazy. And other than me calling these games on Saturday afternoon, I'll probably be home in time for the second half of that first game on Saturday. I won't get off my couch for 3 days. Everybody's closed. Most people are closed. We're a school entity. We're closed on Monday for Martin Luther King Day.
Yeah.
You guys are going to be shut down for like a week because of the weather. It looks like.
Yes.
So yeah, you're not going to be able to pry me off that couch. You need a crowbar and a crane.
Yeah. And while you're on your couch, you can email the show, or you can also hit us up on Twitter as well. And we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to know how you're spending your super wild card weekend, which is going to be phenomenal, and what you think of the Peacock streaming service. It's hard to believe the football playoffs are already here, but they're here, and it's just awesome. And it's almost like, and I don't know if it's because Arkansas is struggling in basketball, but normally college basketball kind of comes forward, but I don't know that anybody's really paying attention, are they? I mean, it's football.
Because there doesn't seem to be a clear-cut dominant team. When we saw Kansas lose to UCF the other night, Purdue lost a couple nights ago. It's just too early, to be honest. And I don't know. Maybe it's the lack of Arkansas being competitive in meaningful games. I haven't paid a lot of attention to college basketball. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, I'm going to go get to the house this afternoon and watch a UCA basketball game that was played yesterday just for research. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that if I wasn't working. I don't know. I've kind of lost. I kind of do this with basketball at all levels. I gain interest and I lose it. And right now, it's got an all time low of my interest in college hoops.
I'm kind of that way too. But also, let's admit the football has been compelling. I mean, it has. I mean, there's always something. I mean, it's just like it's just when you think the NFL's kind of peaked or topped. I don't know how, but it's. They keep raising the game. College football's doing the same. We're football nuts, and it's growing and growing. It's just become this huge monster. It cracks me up when everybody, all the national networks try to do all this NBA stuff, and it's like, they got 2 million people watching. Football has 25 million. I mean, it's so much bigger. It's just wild.
Wait till the college football playoff next year.
Oh,
and the week of the 5-12 and the 8-9 matchups and all those games are drawing 5 or 6 times more than an NBA game.
Yes,
Major League Baseball free agency has been nothing compared to what's going on with college and obviously the NFL. And it's just going to do nothing but grow and grow with it. With the college football playoff, I think is expanding to 12, and that's going to be a 3-week long deal, if not longer. It is really going to add to the hunger, the football craze, as you mentioned a second ago, in the future, because now you're going to be able to watch, big time playoff football on Saturdays and Sundays leading up until the first of the year. And so now it's not just in the month of January and you got to wait a couple weeks for the Super Bowl. Now you're going to be able to watch it the week before Christmas all the way through the end of January, playoff football. And what's better than playoff football? And it's a rhetorical question because there's nothing better.
Yes. Well, is it also the fact that the season is shorter? Because let's face it, the basketball season is long, maybe too long. Mm-hmm. NBA season's way too long. Major League Baseball season is so long. It's just our attention span is such. Football fits perfectly, and there's always something going. And the league's got it structured now with the free agency and then the draft and just everything. There's enough to keep your interest, but the games, it's kind of like Chick-fil-A being open 6 days a week, and you got that 7th day you don't get it, but there's that desire there. I don't know,
I mean, it's all about making you wanting more. It's almost like giving you you order a 6-piece chicken strip or a 5-piece chicken strip dinner, and all of a sudden they give you 4.5. You really want that other half. Like they dangle that carrot out in front of you. You're like, you can't have it, but if you come back tomorrow, you can. And that's what the NFL is. Essentially like, well, I know what you want, but we're going to make you wait another 3 weeks for that. Oh, you want this? Or how about next month? Yeah. And it just keeps you coming back. And it's a vicious yearly cycle. It really is.
Yes. And we love it. We can't get enough of it.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gluttons for it.
Yes. And we love it here in the hospitality room. And it is also, and you texted me today, our second anniversary birthday. What's the proper?
Yes, for birthiversary.
Birthiversary. So it's starting our. So are we starting our 3rd year? Would that be right? Tomorrow?
Yeah, we would be. Yeah, we have completed 2 full years around the moon or sun or whatever, however we travel.
Awesome.
And so we're starting our 3rd venture through the universe.
All right. Well, that's awesome. Well, super. Yeah. What a
who would have thought we would have made it this long? Yeah. And you haven't called and yelled at me one time during this whole time. I'm proud of you, Blair.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Final words on this Frozen Friday as we get ready for the weekend, and hopefully we're back next week and I survive the cold of Kansas City.
Yeah, stay warm. Tickets aren't very expensive for the Chiefs game, so I mean, I'm glad you're going. They're like $55 now, according to ESPN. You can get a ticket for that cheap. But why would you want to? I like cold. I don't like frigid. And you're about to go put yourself in some frigid. But hey, check out the UCA game on ESPN Plus tomorrow. Yes. Tell me how terrible I am. I'm gonna take a wing at it. I haven't done any men's college basketball before. That ought to be fun.
Oh yeah, no, you'll be great. Oh yeah, we'll watch that on the drive up. Yeah, it's sad. Because I thought, okay, he wants to go. I'll get the tickets, and I'll buy them before the end of the Dolphins-Bills game, because if it's the Dolphins, then demand's going to go up. Having no idea what the forecast was, And then, and I thought, oh, I got a pretty good deal. And then I was looking yesterday and I'm like, holy cow. I mean,
Yeah.
$50 will get you in. Now, you will pay more to park your car than you will for the ticket to get in the game.
Mm-hmm.
A playoff game.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's crazy. All right. Well, you see the email, you see the Twitter. Hit us up, and we will talk to you next week. So for Bobby and Blair, we'll talk to you next time on the Hospitality Room, presented by Mascot Media.